Take the pledge to volunteer now at unitedway.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Just now, another kid dropped out of school. There's one every 20 seconds.
If we do nothing, 3.5 million kids won't receive a diploma over the next 4 years. But there is someone who can change that. You. United Way knows that kids who have a caring adult in their life are more likely to make it. So make a pledge. Tutor. Mentor. Volunteer to read with children. And the difference between a dropout and a graduate could be you. Take the pledge to volunteer now at unitedway.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Monday morning, progressives. Chins up and shoulders back. It's time to fight. Welcome to the October 20th, 25 edition of Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Find my show on Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, heartlandsignal.com, and YouTube. Email me at richard@wcpt820.com. Follow me on X, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Blue Sky, Threads, and Substack. So yes, chins up and shoulders back. It's time to fight. Catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. There you can get Choose Views, featured interviews, Joe Nesposito, live, local, and progressive. Live, local, and progressive. Patty Vasquez, Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez. The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath. And, of course, Out Chicago and all of our other shows and interviews. Make your way over to heartlandsignal.com. Why? Because there's good stuff over there. That's why. You got to be armed to be able to talk to the people that you know and send them stuff and say, listen, I saw this over at WCPT's heartlandsignal.com digital platform. Our newsroom is stellar. So check out the work that they do. Posts and clips and articles and all that good stuff. So make your way over there. Lots of stuff that Governor Pritzker had to say the past couple of days. And Patty's interview with Kat Mazela, another great piece you want to check out. So make your way over to heartlandsignal.com to check out our digital platform. So much good stuff that's there. Quite a weekend. We're going to get into that in this this short window that we have this morning, because on the show today, our guests do include Jennifer Jones, who is a basically a cyber terrorism expert. And she's going to be talking about some of the things that we all should be paying attention to in this highly volatile environment we're in when it comes to technology. Macy Miller, who is going to talk a little bit about unions and their impact when it comes to college campuses and graduate students. It's a really interesting conversation. And then political strategist, our good friend Mike Nellis, will be with us in the 7:30 hour. And I know he and I are going to chop it up quite a bit in our segment this morning. So looking forward to having the three of them with us this morning. But right now, check this out, progressives.
If my ancestors as slaves can lead the greatest general strike in the history of this country, taking it to the ultra-rich and big corporations, we can do the same today. I'm calling on black people, white people, brown people, Asian people, immigrants, gay people from around this country to stand up against tyranny and to bring back to the ultra-rich and big corporations. We are going to make next generation. Are you ready to take it to the courts and to the streets?
Yes, we are, right? When we're seeing just the depth of the attacks that are happening, trying to roll back all those gains that were won through past struggle, that you were talking about. And they're not going to win. They're not going to do it. This crowd out here is showing why they're not going to do it.
It's our money. It's supposed to go to us. And so when we go on a general strike, we're basically saying we want our money to go back to us. We want our power to go back to us, not to these fascists.
In case you couldn't tell, that was Mayor Brandon Johnson, his speech at the protest rally, whatever you want to call it, this weekend, Saturday specifically here in Chicago. Mayor Johnson, there were lots of speakers there, maybe too many, and maybe should have been shorter. But Mayor Johnson reached into the depths of his culture, my culture, our community, and spoke for not just the city of Chicago, but I said this to a friend that I was there with, along with my wife and two other friends. I said to her, and shout out to you, Christina. I said people can say what they want to about Mayor Johnson, and yes, he's got lots of work to do and imperfections like we all have. But right now, if there's somebody that's standing up, not just for Chicago, the state of Illinois, or the rest of the country when it comes to this regime in the White House, the two men are Brandon Johnson and J.B. Pritzker. Others are doing their part. I'm not trying to say anybody else isn't, but those two men are standing up to this regime. And they did it strong and proud on Saturday, and that was Mayor Johnson from the rally at Butler Field and in Grant Park here in Chicago. So I can send you guys the clip if anybody wants it. Just send me an email at richard@wcpt820.com, and we'll get you the clip. But I was, I was there with my wife and a few friends, and a number of takeaways. And if you guys listened to the family meeting yesterday, we talked about this at length in terms of the protest, or Eric was saying it was more of a rally, but whatever one labels it as, I'm not trying to correct anybody's language. It was a protest by people who wanted to speak their minds or be in the community of other people who wanted to speak their minds, and that was part of my takeaway. One of my other takeaways with this, Matt, is and Matt's going to share. I'm putting him on the spot. He's going to share a little bit of an experience that he had at the rally that he went to. But my question now, my question for all of us, whether you attended the rally, protest, rally, whatever you want to call it, my question is, what's next? Okay, we were critical, if you want to call it that, yesterday, or we certainly talked about what what the organizers could have done differently. I'm always of the mindset, if I didn't do something, I got to be careful in how I critique it, because if I didn't do it, if I'm not the one that made something happen, I can be, it's easy to yell and scream from the rafters, but get out on the field. And literally, we were out on the field, Butler Field, on Saturday. But to that end, the one thing that's the takeaway that I want everybody to be thinking about is, what's next? What do we do next? And I will be candid as hell. I was standing there going, okay, I know why I'm here, and I know what's happening to all of us. And a couple times I stood there and I said, okay, so what do I take away from this? What is it that I'm going to do next? What is it that we all should be doing next? And maybe there should have been a collective message from the organizers or some of the speakers that here's where we go next. I get that. But we all individually have to answer that question. I think that's as important as an organized voice saying it is as individually we have to say, okay, what am I going to do now? And I've got a couple of suggestions or just observations about what can be next. And we'll try to get into that during the course of the show, probably more specifically when I talk with Mike in the 7:30 hour, Mike Nellis, that is. But I think individually, we have to ask that question. What is it that you're going to do next? Are you going to be the person? I think one of the easiest things to do, Obviously, there's the writing of letters and cards. There's the calls to congressional leaders on the left and on the right. I would say you'd have more impact if you call a congressional leader on the right, because they're the ones that are holding up. They're doing two forms of holding up. They're holding up the government reopening. Okay, they're really the ones that are preventing the government from reopening. It's not the Democrats. It's the Republicans. Don't buy the BS. The other thing that they're holding up is the release of the Epstein files. So they're doing a really good job of holding up things right now. They're holding up the government reopening, and they're holding up the release of the Epstein files, because Mike Johnson he knows that swearing in Representative Adelita Grijalva will change the direction of this conversation. That being said, what can you do? I think everybody has to look in the mirror and ask themselves, what's my next? And I think that one of the easiest next, frankly, is to recognize that we have the serious problem, and I have to reach out to someone that's going to make a difference. Now, what does that look like? It might be, as I said, contacting a member of Congress. It might be a state rep. It might be your mayor or your governor. But you cannot not do anything and just go home after this rally and this week go back to your regular life, because your regular life has been impacted already. Okay? So that's, you got to tell yourself that I've got to be more proactive. That's the thing. I've got to be active. I can't just sit back. And frankly, I can't just go to a protest or rally and then walk away and not do something. That's to me is the next. Individually, we have to be willing to say that to ourselves. Maybe in the past I've sat back. I'm saying this, I'm speaking in third voice. Maybe in the past I've sat back and I didn't really do anything. I thought it would all be okay. You don't have that luxury anymore. You just don't. You don't, because as a statement's been made by so many people, and Governor Pritzker referenced this in his speech, they came for everybody else and I didn't do anything. And then when they came for there was nobody left. I'm paraphrasing that wonderful part of a poem. That's where we are. They came for everybody else. I didn't do anything. They came for me and there was nobody left. So that's where we all have to be right now, is to recognize that we all have power in this space. And they're trying to squash it by squashing our voices. You cannot let that happen. That means if you're walking down the street and you hear someone say something or do something that's inappropriate in this time, you've got to step to them. You've got to be willing to call it out, because if they get away with it there, they'll get away with it in so many other venues. And that's the courage it takes right now, is to stand up for somebody else who may be getting mistreated. That's part of it as well. So Matt's going to share a really quick, tiny little experience he had that surprised him this weekend at the rally that he went to. Matt, then we'll go to break.
Yeah, I was at the Palatine rally, No Kings, and I was blown away by the fact that I had seen so many people who I recognized, not just people who, protesters in the street, but people who I've, came from all walks of life, old camp counselors, old people from high school. It was just... You
were saying people that you didn't know were politically, had a political voice or were willing to speak out.
Yeah, people who didn't even strike me as being, having opinion on this sort of thing were there. And I ran into them.
One of my hopes, and we talked about this a little bit on the family meeting yesterday, is that of the 89 million people that did not vote in this last election, the people that voted for Trump, I'm not trying to spend any energy on them. If they come back, they come back. Or if they come away, they come away. I would hope that of the 7 million people that were at a rally and throughout the country, that there are people that showed up that maybe didn't show up in the 2024 election. Do you know what I mean? Like, if we're going to peel off some folks or get some people back, it's the people that didn't show up to vote in 2024. Because I've said this for the longest time, that's where the real opportunities are as we go forward, as it relates to voter registration or new voter excitement. It's getting those people off the bench and into the game. Absolutely. And it's, that sounds like a little bit of, not saying that those people that you saw didn't vote, but that they are out. They're taking part in the process now.
And it shows how unified we all are. about this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's right. All right, Matt, let's take a quick break, guys. 773-763-9278 is our number. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Check up on health with Chris Whitting.
You've heard of atrial fibrillation, but do you understand what it is? Sean Heffron, MD, is a preventative cardiologist from the Center for the Prevention of Cardiovascular Disease at NYU Langone Health.
Atrial fibrillation is an abnormal heart rhythm, kind of like a fluttering of the top portions of the heart. When that happens, the blood flow is not smooth and fluid through the heart, and it can lead to blood clot formation and then potentially travel to the brain, which is why atrial fibrillation is such a great concern for stroke.
And the warning signs?
Some patients who have atrial fibrillation may experience a fluttering sensation in their chest or a sensation of a rapid heartbeat, but often patients don't feel any symptoms from the atrial fibrillation.
With Checkup on Health, I'm Chris Whitting.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chu.
Hey, guys, welcome back to the show. Good to be with you this morning. So I got a text that I want to read to you guys. I'm going to read as best I can read it. This comes from our good friend Lois. Lois says, was at the Chicago rally, which was great. My sister lives in a small town with 23,000. Check this out, guys. Listen to this math. With 23,000 people in southern Oregon, and there were 2,500 plus people there. That's over 10%. That's well over 10%. My cousin lives in a red area of North Carolina. There were 525 people in an area with a population of 12,000 people. That's not bad. It's the rural crowds that count. That gives me hope. Better news: Trump is losing GOP support. What's next? We have to do well in the next elections. Good support good candidates, and don't be afraid to talk freely and loudly in public that you support our country and that you know that Trump and his ilk have got to go. Right on, Lois. I couldn't say it any better myself. The last part particularly. Don't be afraid. I'm going to put that into a positive. Be encouraged to talk freely and loudly in public that you support our country and know that Trump and his ilk have to go. Yes, be encouraged. Absolutely. Without a doubt, be encouraged. And so we recognize that not everybody is where everybody else is when it comes to speaking loudly in public and being active. But if there is a protest and or rally in your community, like I said, go with somebody, take somebody with you, but attend it, because I think one of the things that happens here is that a lot of times the reason that people don't do something is that they feel like there is no one else. They frankly feel like they're by themselves. You might be in a household where you've got a spouse and children, you got a big family, and you go to a family picnic, you go to a family gathering. I try to stay away from using the word picnic because there's a historical negative to that word. But, and you guys can look it up. Let's see who can tell me what the historical negative to the word picnic is. That being said, you can be in a community, a family, of a group of friends, and you're the one that's speaking more progressively, more liberally, more democratically, more forward moving, less sexist, racist, and all the rest. And so you don't speak up enough, not enough, but you don't speak up a lot or often, because you're oftentimes you feel that you're going to get drowned out by the people that are seemingly closest to you. When in fact, you may have a bigger voice than you give yourself credit for. So I believe that getting involved, going to a protest and or rally of whatever size it is, what you find immediately You get to the venue, you get to the park or whatever, the field, and you have been surrounded by people who are like-minded. And like-minded isn't always the best thing in the world, but when it comes to this, and the like-mindedness is about Trump and the entire GOP on all levels, federal and state, have got to go. That's a powerful place to be. So if there was anything that people hopefully took from Saturday, is to be re-energized to go back out and do more work. Okay? So to Lois's point, be proud, not afraid to talk freely and loudly in public that you support our country and that this regime has got to go. And we are the ones that have got to make it go. So, all right, just wanted to keep you guys as fired up about whatever you did as possible. Matt, let's hit them with a couple of Choose Views news items on this October 20th, 2025. New wood tariffs are stressing out home renovators. Newly imposed 25% tariffs on certain finished wood products and components are set to jump 50% at the start of the year. And it's stressing out remodeling contractors across the board and, of course, homeowners who have to foot the bill. Small businesses devoted to home improvement projects are bracing for the short-term pain. And here's the problem. What is the definition of short-term pain in this space? Even before the tariffs went into effect, some researchers projected that the growth in home renovation spending would soften mid-2026. But again, it's all part of this tariff debacle from Donald Trump and his regime. The U.S. prolongs tariff relief for automakers. The White House extended tariff relief for the auto industry to 5 years on Friday, while formally leveling 25% tariffs on import medium and heavy-duty trucks and parts. It also set a new 10% business levy. Major players, including Ford, General Motors, have been lobbying for months to get some relief as they faced higher tariffs on not just imported parts, but also materials used to make them, such as steel and aluminum. It's a peek inside of Southwest's drastic departure from open seating. Big spenders will enjoy Southwest's new boarding plan, according to the Wall Street Journal. Other passengers, not so much. Travelers who buy the carrier's most expensive tickets, for example, gain automatic entry into an early boarding group, so carry-on space is plentiful. No luck for the thrifty counterparts, even though those seats near the plane's front end are available. The change is set to start January 2026, mark a drastic departure for the airline, whose open seating policy has been in place for more than 50 years. And I say that it'll be an interesting transition to see how that plays out, but here we go. Many professionals want to be their own bosses, and about 40% of U.S. professionals say they're interested in launching a business soon, according to LinkedIn's latest workforce confidence survey. With technological advancements, it's easier to start a new venture than ever before, but entrepreneurial drive varies per industry. Workers in arts and recreation, 53%, and hospitality, 52%, are the most eager to go solo, followed by those that are in administrative services and transportation. There you go, guys. A couple of Choose Views news items on this Monday, October 20th, 2025. So a couple of other quick bits of commentary. Trump's triggered by the success of the protests. There's evidence already that he has been in his bubble of delusion, and that was mightily punctured by the 7 million Americans who decided to get out and show themselves and be part of the rallies and protests this weekend. Of course, according to some of the early conversations, he said things like, who cares? But he is showing that he's PO'd because the rallies representatively were bigger than his inauguration, and particularly that in D.C. So you guys, speaking of Trump and some of his craziness, here's here's one for you. You all remember the name George Santos. Y'all saw what happened over the weekend. He had he got, kind of a pass, what I'll call it, commuted. United States of America, George Santos has his 7-year sentence for lying, cheating, and stealing over $500,000 commuted by another criminal, the president, the dude that's in the White House. Wow, Willie Simmons serves life without parole for stealing $9. That's what I call the difference between white and black justice. And the reason I say that about Santos, and this is one of those that might get some people's undies in a bundle, George Santos never embraces his Latin heritage, his Hispanic heritage. He embraces the attempt to look white. And that some people don't like that, but look too doggone bad. That's what he's done. He's presented himself that way. Doesn't respect his heritage. But he got white justice in America, which he pleaded. Here's the thing. He pleaded guilty. So there you go. Don't tell me that that the justice system is just when that happens and another man has life without parole for stealing $9. Now, so there you go. And we're going to take a quick break, but at some point in the show, I might get to my list about things to do post rally. So we'll hit you with those. We'll try to hit you with those maybe at the top of the hour. But let's take a quick break, Matt. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Every 40 seconds, a child is reported missing. That's 2,000 children every single day. It's a heart-wrenching reality that we can no longer ignore. Find the Children is a non-profit organization dedicated to helping find missing kids. You can be a part of their mission by donating your unwanted vehicle, running or not. Call 1-800-775-5622. We guarantee that you will receive the maximum tax deduction. We provide fast, free pickup with 24-hour response. Call 1-800-775-5622. Find the Children provides crucial resources to help find missing children and educational materials to teach kids how to recognize and avoid predators. Our recovery programs have a proven track record of reuniting kids with their families. It's time to act. Donate your unwanted or unused car. Help us build a world where every child is safe. Pick up the phone and call 1-800-775-5622. Together, we can bring these kids home safely. This advertisement was paid for by Cars R Us and Find the Children.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see sunny skies here for today with a high in the upper 60s. Breezy south winds increased around 15 to 20 miles per hour, gusting as high as 30. And then for tonight, a chance for rain showers, increasing clouds, a low near 48. By Tuesday, chance for rain showers here late. Partial sunshine develops high around 57. Then Wednesday, partly sunny skies, a high around 52. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 41.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chu.
Hey, guys, welcome back to the show. Yeah, I got a text sent to me. Many professionals could have had a $50,000 tax credit to start that business. Remember, that's what Vice President Harris was building toward as part of her campaign. People forget about that. And I was reading about the number of people that want to go solo. So there you go. We had that opportunity. I posted a great sign that someone had a sign at the rally, the protest that said, if Kamala Harris were president right now, we'd be at brunch. So I posted it on my social media, so check it out. As online scammers become increasingly sophisticated, and we all are online, scams are increasing. And according to the FBI's 2024 crime report, $16.6 billion were lost in 2024 due to online scams, 33% up from the prior year. With us this morning is someone that is a specialist, knows this area very, very well, and going to help us talk a little bit about Cybersecurity Awareness Month. With us this morning is one of the top cybersecurity experts in the country, Jennifer Jones. Good morning, Jennifer, and welcome to Choose Views.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Kind of clearing the throat as I always do this morning, but it's good to be with you. And so many people. I mean, I won't say I don't know anybody that's not online, but I would probably say that most of us, in some capacity, do go online, whether it be to order something, to check our banking, to buy plane tickets, to search for information about going to see a movie. And so we're all online in some capacity. But tell us a little bit about your background. Tell us a little bit about your work. And then let's get into what some of the concerns are that you are seeing right now and some of the things that you can recommend to people in terms of what to be aware of and preventative measures.
Yeah, sure. Happy to. So I actually work at Google, and it is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and taking the time to visit with you and other folks around the country about some of the top risks that we have seen. We know that cybersecurity is a growing concern, and I'm really happy to be here with you today, and we'll definitely share a few practical tips to keep your listeners safe while they are online.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm always concerned about is when I get, how do I want to put it? You go online and you're purchasing something, and I guess there's a number of concerns, but these are probably my top two. You go online and you're searching, you're looking for something, and then depending on who the company is that you're getting the information from, they may have these, for lack of better words, advertisements or other promotions that are tied to the site that you're at, and it drives a lot of people crazy. You can't get to the information you want you're searching for, and suddenly you're spending more time Xing out of something that's being dropped on you versus the thing that you're actually looking for. I know my wife and I have used a few, and members of my family and other friends, a few expletives, because we're just trying to get to, how to buy X, Y, and Z. But before you even get there, Jennifer, you've got all this stuff that's just coming at you. Talk a little bit about that. I know talk a little bit about that as it relates to security and what that's caused for people.
Yeah, online ads can definitely be quite annoying, but thankfully a lot of them are not fake, but there are a lot of those that are fake. So those are malvertising is what we call them, and that's basically an ad that involves harmful software hidden within online ads, and they can definitely mess up your device if you do follow them and follow a series of prompts. And it can sometimes download malware designed to steal your information. But those aren't the only common scams that we see. We see a lot of customer support scams where scammers impersonate customer agents, and they, do types of tricks to get you to reveal sensitive information. We have the package tracking scams, where scammers will send a fake text message pretending to be a certain delivery company, asking for money or a small fee, or tricking users into clicking malicious links so they can steal their information.
So when it comes to those, you called it malvertising. I think if I'm saying it the right way.
Yeah, that's for malware. Malvertising.
Leave it to the tech folks to come up with something brilliant like that. That's a good one, malvertising. So Jennifer, but let's come back to that for a second as it relates to. Obviously the good advertisements, if you will, or the things that do have a purpose. How are they impacted by the ones that are not? What are you seeing when it comes to that? Is there a battle there? Are they realizing that they've got skin in the game in this space? What's their experience there? What are you hearing from that side of the table?
Yeah, I think just overall, it can decay customer trust in what they're seeing online. And, the more common these maladvertisements are, people begin to not trust what they see sometimes. And so they're not totally sure what to click on or where to follow online. We did a recent study on consumers and found that over 60% of U.S. consumers really have perceived an increase in scams over the last year. And folks are really searching for information on how to bypass these. Google continues to protect our users from scams, all types of scams. Particularly with the rise of AI, we have seen some cyber criminals use AI for bad, but Google is using it for good and has continued to use AI for good for decades. We recommend a few key things to do. We have AI-powered scam detection, and that can help detect scam messages on your phone. It can warn you in real time. Our Gmail uses AI to automatically block like 99.9% of spam and those malvertisements and phishing malware from ever reaching your inbox. And we definitely have a couple of new products that have come out recently that we are encouraging folks to adopt, mainly a passkey. I'm not sure if you've heard of passkeys, but they're super simple. They're super safe, easy alternatives to passwords. And you can use them, the exact same way that you use, whatever you use to unlock your phone, your face, your passcode, and it really protects scammers and malvertising and malware from being able to reach your protected information.
So when it comes to I know everybody, we're all talking about AI. We're talking about it from how do we use it. We're talking about it in terms of what are the downsides potentially of it, and that's across the board. I know you hear it, but as it relates to scamming, how are people to protect themselves on an individual basis? I know you talked about the pass keys, but I think one of the big things that I ask is, so what is it that, like the 2, 3, 4, 5 things that an individual can do as it relates to just basic use of their devices? Because I do want to get into phone and other device security. I know I mentioned computers right out of the gate, but what are those top 2 or 3 things that an everyday person can do, and they should start doing it literally now?
I think this is a great question. I get it a lot. The simplest way to avoid scams is to go ahead and adopt the solutions that we can offer you. So if you put them in place, it helps you immediately. And of course, in the future, as you become a little more savvy about what to expect. So I did mention passkeys. We know that it will take time for people to adopt passkeys. So if you need to use a password in the interim, we highly recommend something called 2-step verification. Super simple. It will create and it will remember your passwords for you. And it will also notify you if you've been breached or if you need to change a password that has been found on a malicious website. That's the first thing I would do. Also, a security checkup is something that is simple and takes, no time at all to see where you're vulnerable. You go to your Google account settings, which...
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I was going to say, could you explain a security checkup? Okay, go ahead.
Totally. So in your Google account, you go to your settings, and it will walk you through the tools that you should be using, and it will let you know what security updates are needed. So you can find out where your high levels of protection are already, and then where you need to go protect yourself, and then it will walk you through how to implement those step by step. A couple of other things that we frequently see. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you said a couple of other things.
Yeah. So, be aware of the types of requests that come from scammers. We hear a lot of people say, I got an urgent request, especially, someone I didn't know, and they asked for, information about me, and it seemed urgent, and I felt like I had to take care of it immediately. That's a big common red flag. Sometimes in emails, online, or in your text, if there are discrepancies like spelling or design errors in the email or text, big red flag. Always consider your source legitimate businesses, they will not ask you to share sensitive information like your passcodes or your passwords or, anything about your financials. And a lot of them will never call you. It's very rare that they would call you. Like Google would never call you. And it's rare that a legitimate business would, unless you were already dealing with them in a business situation. So those are a few things to note before you engage. And then one thing that I encourage everyone to do, which is actually incredibly fun, and it helps you be a little bit more aware of what all is out there. So we have this game at Google called Be Scam Ready, and you can test your skills on if you can identify something that's actually a scam. And it's gamified, so it makes it a little more fun, but it exposes you to real-life scenarios of scams, and it's interactive, and you can play it and brush up on, does this look like a scam? Am I being scammed? Is this common? And it's called Be Scam Ready. It's a game.
Be Scam Ready. That's I think, Jennifer, you know this as a cybersecurity expert, but more people. Well, let me back up. How I want to say this. I think a lot of times people are just flat out careless. We all are susceptible to that, and so it's. Sometimes people don't want to admit or acknowledge that they may have gotten scammed and or that they may have even. Okay, so take that and run with it. I was trying to figure out the right way to say that, but I think that's a reality, isn't it? Something that you see?
Yeah, it is. It's very common, and a lot of people get embarrassed about it. You open this conversation with a poignant fact: $16.6 billion were lost in 2024. That's not just like one billionaire being scammed, right? That's just a lot of average people being scammed and losing money. And it's 33% increase from 2023. So it's happening to a lot of people, and a lot of people don't think it will happen to them. So being prepared and being ready before it could potentially happen to you is the number one key on how to protect yourself. And just if you fall into trouble or if something looks fishy, don't be afraid to further investigate or ask more questions or, do a search at Google and ask, is this a common scam? If you don't recognize something and it seems strange to you, it probably is. But if you fall for it, don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah, I think that's just kind of the human cause or whatever, the human way that sometimes we're afraid to ask for help or admit that something may have happened to us. And that could be whether we're talking about our health or, in this case, we're talking about our cybersecurity health. I mean, it's just I'll phrase it that way. Maybe those are not the words that you use, but this is another part of staying healthy. And I like what you said earlier about the security checkup. That's a really cool thing for people to tie into.
Yes.
So Jennifer,
and it's so simple, and it walks you through what you need to do. There's no guesswork.
Yeah, that's the way it should be. I'm a bullet point person, and it sounds like you guys have put together. Okay, next step. Okay, good. I can follow that. It makes it easy for those of us who are trying to keep this on the up and up. So Jennifer, it's just so much that pops into my head with a conversation like this. I know that this is not a necessarily political conversation. However, there has been some changes in terms of the regulatory landscape that I've been paying attention to. And, the federal policy has kind of shifted to put more of this responsibility of preparedness on states and local jurisdictions. How are you, and I'm not asking you to be political, I'm just curious how you see that, how you navigate that as a professional in this space.
Yeah, I think there's always changes, and I think that online safety and privacy is really important, and I also think that it's very personal. And that's why at Google we try to focus on giving people transparency and control when they use a specific Google product. People can be responsible for their own exploring online. And, I think especially when it comes to scams, there's a lot of sophisticated threats out there, and you do have to look out for yourself and be aware, which is why the education part of knowing what is out there, when you come across it, that way you're not hesitant to take the right steps to protect yourself. And again, it's super personal, and it's part of being a good steward of the online community and resources that you come across. And threats are sophisticated, and people just really should protect themselves and invest in even the minimal amount of online education security to be able to watch out for themselves.
Absolutely. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu, and we're talking with cybersecurity expert from Google, Jennifer Jones. Let me ask you this question, and this is one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on, is I look at the time of the year for a lot of things that we all do. And, starting in 2 weeks, the four big holidays, I call them Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. I kind of put them all together because people spend an inordinate amount of money during this time of the year. And so here we are in holiday season over the next, 90 plus days. And we know that everyone's going to be spending more money in whatever capacity, but particularly online. There's a lot of numbers showing the reduction in, store spending and brick and mortar and more in the online space. So what are some tips, some maybe just additional layering to what you've already talked about that you would recommend for people to be aware of during this upcoming 90 plus days?
Yeah, great question. So I think customer support scams, I touched on those briefly, but can expand on those a little bit. These are scammers online who pretend to be a customer service agent. Sometimes online shopping, you need to ask questions, or you made an error online and you need to talk to an agent in something that you're shopping at and, want to get additional information, troubleshoot something. And, again, a customer service agent, unless you've reached out to them and made contact, usually don't just reach out to you randomly. Impersonating a customer service agent is something that we have seen. If you're engaging with a customer service agent on a verified site that you're doing business, that's totally different. But someone reaching out to you from a known brand and trying to trick you into revealing sensitive information or granting access to your devices, those are really unusual activities. Again, if you're interacting with someone on a closed website that you've been doing business, normally fine. But if someone reaches out to you, that's something to be aware of. Also package tracking scams.
And tolls.
If you receive a
toll
text
road
message,
scams are a big one too right now with all the traveling that folks are about to embark upon. Sorry, Jennifer, go ahead.
No, that's a great one. It's a great one to mention. The scammers will often send you fake text messages claiming that you have an unpaid toll fee and, trying to trick you into clicking on fraudulent links or sending them money or saying that, there's a swift consequence if you don't reply immediately, that kind of thing. Again, they generally won't. It's not legitimate generally if they're sending you a text message about this type of information. So be wary of something like that. And the package tracking scammers that send fake text messages pretending to be delivery companies, asking for fees or, tricking you into sending them money to steal or clicking on links to steal your information. Those are three things that I would keep an eye out for as the big holiday season begins.
I just had two people that send me. They just did their security checkup. So let's wrap up with that because that seems to be one of the most salient things this morning that you've said. It's all been great, but walk us through that one more time because I know that our listeners all over the country would like a quick refresher before we let you go, Jennifer.
Oh, for sure, my pleasure. So yes. We encourage you, of course, as I mentioned, to use the pass keys, but we know that not everyone will be able to adopt those immediately. Something that you can do in the interim is to consider doing a security checkup for your Google account. It is a quick checkup that will review your account settings. It will make simple, easy to follow suggestions for further ways to protect your account, like adding the two-step verification, like setting up a pass key and more. It is a Google account service, and it's incredibly convenient and easy way to protect yourself online.
So if people want to find you or at least see more about what you're doing, I know you're part of a really important women's organization in terms of women in cybersecurity, but how can folks reach out to you if they have other questions?
Sure, you can always go to safety.google, and you can always, for your own personal information, go to myaccount.google.com to see all the ways that you can keep your account secure.
Fantastic. Jennifer Jones, cybersecurity expert with Google. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. I really felt it was important as we get into the holiday season to have someone like you on who can talk about something that impacts every single one of us, every single moment of every single day, and that's our cybersecurity awareness. So thanks, Jennifer, for being with us this morning.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Have a great day. Bye-bye. All right, guys, there you go. I mean, check your stuff out. Do your security checkup, and be smart right now. We're all a lot of people signed up for a lot of things this weekend with the different rallies and whatnot throughout the country, and there's a lot of things that we're all signing up for, checking into. It's that time of year when scammers do raise their profile. There's more active scamming going on, as Jennifer just said, and I read the data at the beginning of the segment. So please make sure that you are taking the time to check your stuff out and be aware. Be proactive. Don't be sitting in a public space, Maddie B, and be on your phone looking stuff up using the Wi-Fi at whatever public space you're at without that's one of the, and any of you chance to talk to Jennifer about this, but that's one of the big areas where stuff happens is people are in a public space and they use the Wi-Fi there, and it may be unsecured, and there's you basically just open up the door to your house and let people in. So just be mindful, everybody. I'm going to be trying to over the weeks to the rest of the year having some experts on that are in some specific areas like this to talk about some things that you guys may not. It's not that you don't know about them, but they're not top of mind. But and that's not your fault. It's just kind of how we all are running at 100 miles an hour. But to be able to provide you with some things that may not just be political, in some cases they might be, but they are at least some things that are, I hope, to be informative as you are navigating these next 90 days, because it's holiday season, y'all, and this is when a lot of the craziness does happen. Today on Live, Local, and Progressive, Joan Esposito will be joined by Arizona Representative-elect Adelita Grijalva, U.S. Senate candidate Annie Andrews from South Carolina, and University of Chicago political science professor Susan Stokes, author of The Backsliders, Why Leaders Undermine Their Own Democracies. We had Susan on a couple weeks ago. Live, Local, and Progressive, weekdays 2 to 5 p.m. here on WCPT AM 820, heartlandsignal.com, and tune in. And then tonight on Driving It Home, Patty Vasquez will be taking your calls and talking to Neil Coate, candidate for Congress in the 8th District of Illinois, and Illinois State Representative Cam Buckner. Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, weekdays 5 to 7 here on WCPT, AM 820, the Heartland Signal website, tune in, YouTube, and Facebook. Tomorrow, I'll be joined by Christian Dentley of a cappella singing group Take 6 and Michigan State Senator Dana Polanyi. We did a recorded interview with her that I want to air with you guys. And my good friend Rico Moat will be with us in studio tomorrow to chat it up and talk a little about everything. This week, we're going to have Texas State Representative Gene Wu will be joining us on Wednesday. Former Commanding General of the Illinois National Guard William Inhert will be with us, legal expert and author. Can't wait to talk to Professor and podcaster Leah Littman will be with us on Thursday. UIC historian Kevin Schultz, and, of course, our good friends Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blue 63 and Karen Byrne from True Blue Politics Podcast. So, Maddie B, let's take a little bit of a break. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR in Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
This is a WCPT Veteran Minute. In the midst of World War II, a group of Native American soldiers known as the Code Talkers became silent heroes. The U.S. military faced challenge of secure communications on the battlefield, and these men, primarily from the Navajo tribe, were enlisted to develop an unbreakable code. Using their native language, which had no written alphabet, they transmitted vital messages that were indecipherable to enemy forces. The code proved to be an essential asset, particularly in the Pacific Theater, where it helped the Allies win crucial battles. The Code Talkers' courage and ingenuity saved countless lives and turned the tide of the war. Yet, their contributions remained largely unknown until decades later. The legacy of the Code Talkers stands as a testament to the strength, resilience, and valuable service of Native Americans during one of America's most devastating conflicts. This has been a WCPT Veteran Minute.
WCPT Replay.
I am, of course, thrilled to be joined by Simon Rosenberg. We can't in any way compromise on and sort of sugarcoat or put lipstick on the Trumpian pig on this sort of racial assault against people of lesser means and of different race. This whole notion that somehow white people in this world are somehow superior to all the other people of the world. Maybe, we could have believed that 150 or 200 years ago, but today it's an absurdity, right? And so we have an obligation. I think that we have to understand now that one of our central collective projects, Edwin, together, is to face white supremacy head on and defeat it.
Keep listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Eggland's Best, the only eggs with more fresh and delicious taste, plus superior nutrition. Eggland's Best, better taste, better nutrition, better eggs.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. President Trump has suggested buying beef from Argentina could bring down prices for American consumers.
And everything's down. The one thing that's kept up is beef. And if we buy some beef, now I'm not talking about that much from Argentina, it would help Argentina, which we consider a very good country, a very good ally.
Speaking aboard Air Force One yesterday, a reporter asked Trump what he had to say to U.S. farmers who feel purchasing beef from Argentina would benefit the South American country more than it would them.
They're fighting for their life. Nothing's benefiting Argentina. They're fighting for their life. You understand what that means? They have no money. They have no anything. They're fighting so hard to survive. If I can help them survive in a free world, I happen to like the president of Argentina. I think he's trying to do the best he can. But don't make it sound like they're doing great. They are dying.
In 4 minutes, thieves were able to steal crown jewels from the Louvre Museum. AP correspondent Julie Walker has more.
In mere minutes inside the world's most visited museum, the Louvre in Paris, thieves rode a basket lift up the facade, forced a window, smashed display cases, and fled with priceless Napoleonic jewels. Officials say the daylight heist took place about 30 minutes after opening, with visitors already inside. It comes as staff had been complaining about overcrowding and a strain on security. France's culture minister describing it as a professional 4-minute operation. One object was later found outside the museum. French media identified it as the emerald-set imperial crown of Napoleon III's wife, Empress Eugenie, containing more than 1,300 diamonds. It was reportedly recovered broken. I'm Julie Walker.
Preliminary results show Rodrigo Paz has won Bolivia's presidential election. More information at apnews.com. This is AP News. Americans are losing confidence in today's job market. AP's Lisa Dwyer has more on a recent poll's findings.
A new Associated Press NORC Center for Public Affairs poll indicates that Americans are increasingly worried about their ability to find a good job under President Donald Trump. About half of U.S. adults are not very confident or not at all confident that they can find a good job. That's up from 37% when the same question was asked 2 years ago. People are also worried about high prices for groceries, housing, gasoline, and rising electricity bills. says those findings could be potential warning signs for the Trump administration and the Republican Party as a promised economic boom is giving way to hiring freezes and higher prices for the majority of Americans. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
More on this and other stories at apnews.com. I'm Marcela Sanchez, AP News.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see sunny skies here for today with a high in the upper 60s. Breezy south winds increased around 15 to 20 miles per hour, gusting as high as 30. And then for tonight, a chance for rain showers, increasing clouds, a low near 48. By Tuesday, chance for rain showers here late. Partial sunshine develops, high around 57. Then Wednesday, partly sunny skies, a high around 52. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 41.
Driving, it's just better in a Porsche. Find yours at the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park. Browse and test drive our extensive selection, like the 2025 Porsche Cayenne. And right now, lease the 2025 Macan for only $949 a month for 39 months. Discover performance like no other at the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park or PorscheExchange.com. $7,469 due at signing. Excludes tax, title, license, and doctor. No security deposit required. Expires 10/31/25.
Chicago's progressive talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
This is Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Hey guys, welcome back to the second hour of Choose Views on this October 20th, 2025. So listen, guys, just, I appreciate the responses that I've received from you guys in terms of, quote, Google in the space of cybersecurity and all that. I'm with you, and I respect where you guys are. So nobody take offense. I mean, nobody feel like you can't respond to that. I have my objective is and will be to be informative about something that we're all affected by or challenged by, and particularly as we're getting into the holiday season. So I will probably have a guest on each week that speaks to some things we should just be mindful of. Maybe not every week, but I'm working to have a person to talk about this or talk about that, and just to keep us aware of where we are right now. So that's cybersecurity was one of the things that I wanted to kind of touch on this morning, and we were able to get Jennifer on. So thank you guys for being mindful. It wasn't about me, giving shout outs to Google. It was more about shout outs to cybersecurity. But I appreciate the commentary. So y'all go check your stuff out. Make sure that you do your security checkup and know that you're protecting all that's important. Stuff's too expensive right now anyhow, Matt, so we don't need people losing any money and assets because of some knuckleheads that are out there as cybersecurity or scammers and all that. So last week, I was able to, along with Tom Hartman, host the WCPT labor panel up at Max and Benny's in Northbrook, Illinois. For those of you who don't know the Chicagoland area, it's a suburb north of downtown Chicago. And we've done some other great events at Max and Benny's. We had our 20th anniversary there, which was cool, and other events. But we talked a lot about labor in America. And a lot of times when we think of labor unions, we think about that from the perspective of guys and gals who are out there in the trades, slinging it every day, doing what they got to do to keep our buildings and our houses and our whatever's in place. And those are significant union groups and members. But sometimes a category, I guess you could say, that may not necessarily get the attention that they need are the unions that are part of our educational system, both on in a public school environment and in many cases when we're talking about the organization that takes place at colleges and universities. And with us this morning is one of those voices that has been really, really approaching this and talking about things that are happening on college campuses, and specifically right here in Illinois, is the co-outreach chair and communications chair with the GEO. That's the Graduate Employees Organization, Local 6297. It's a union representing teaching assistants, research assistants, and graduate assistants at the University of Illinois here in Chicago. With us, that would be Macy Miller. Good morning, Macy, and welcome to Choose Views on WCPT.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I was, as I was saying, last Wednesday, I was part of we co-hosted a panel where we hosted a panel event of what many people, when they think of unions, they think of the, and this is somewhat of the stereotype that I think we all are susceptible to. They think about the unions as the men and women who are out there as part of the big national, more manufacturing, industrial, and trades unions, but not necessarily getting into or talking a lot about what's happening in the educational environment, particularly on the college level or on the graduate school level. So tell our audience a little bit about your organization and a little bit about you and what you guys do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm on the steering committee of GEO, which is the Graduate Employees Organization. And as you mentioned, we're a labor union on campus representing over 2,000 teaching, research, and graduate assistants at UIC. And we're affiliated with the Illinois Federation of Teachers, the American Federation of Teachers, and the AFL-CIO. And basically, we believe that the university essentially runs on the backs of graduate workers. And they pay us very little, but we're very actively involved in all of the teaching and research activities on campus. And so our union represents these workers and provides us with a voice in the negotiating table, because we're currently bargaining for a new contract right now. And we advocate for graduate workers' rights and all the things that we need on campus to do our jobs right.
So the thing that comes to mind right out of the gate with your description is the first thing that I thought about. Obviously, compensation is one of the big ones, and it's big for all unions and the representation there. But what about safety? And this is when I'm talking about safety, I mean, yes, safety in terms of the floor is not being, the normal safety from injury type of things for graduate teaching assistants and research assistants and all the rest. But what about just campus safety? How do you guys, or do you get involved in those conversations? Because, you can be working some odd hours when you're in that capacity, when you're in that role.
Yeah, absolutely. So currently we're trying to bargain for and prioritize so many of our graduate workers' needs, including campus safety. And so that includes academic protections from things like, suppression or censorship, which is so on the rise these days. We advocate for better health care for our workers, which is so important in terms of protecting our emotional and physical and mental safety. And right now, a major concern on campus is federal law enforcement intervention, particularly from ICE. Which is obviously a huge concern across Chicago right now. And since about 25 to 35% of our graduate workers are international, this is a huge issue that's affecting so many graduate workers on campus. And so many of our workers are terrified to come to campus because they're worried about ICE intervention impacting their ability to do their work and their studies on a daily basis. So we've been hearing really consistently from our international community that this is a huge concern. And we feel that the university has not been properly addressing this concern and trying to keep our graduate workers safe.
What could the university, I'm sure there's more than just one thing, but what could the university be doing in the specific area? And you captured it as freedom from fear. From ICE activity on campus, but talk a little bit about what you think the university should or could be doing.
Yeah, so first, like I said, we've been negotiating for our new contract with the university since late April. And many times we proposed various protections for international students. For instance, we think that the university should declare an ICE-free zone on campus, much like Brandon Johnson has on city property across the city, and not let ICE on campus at all and not cooperate with them. And if ICE does set foot on campus, our union should be notified immediately so we can do what we need to do to protect our members. We think that the university should commit to not sharing any information about its employees with ICE. And if any information is shared with ICE or other law enforcement via a subpoena or a FOIA request, the union should be notified immediately so we can notify our affected workers. And our workers should reserve the right to work from home if they feel that it's unsafe for them to leave their house based upon potential targeting from immigration enforcement or any other reason. And international students at UIC at large should be immediately notified of any changes in their visa status or working authorization. So many of our members are terrified of, these mass visa revocations that have been happening. And the Office of International Services has not been very communicative with workers that are really concerned about this. So we believe that they should be very proactive in these communications and respond to workers who have concerns about their visa status in a timely manner, which we've heard from our international community is not happening at the moment.
So last week you guys had you had an event, a rally, a protest, however one wants to phrase it, to talk about what the university needs to be doing in terms of taking more responsibility or better responsibility as it relates to safety and the well-being of campus, the campus community. What was the genesis of that, and how did it go, and what are your next steps?
Yeah, so basically, we decided to have this action because of a specific thing that happened on campus. So around 3:30 on Wednesday, October 8th, our union leadership was made aware that there was ICE activity near the Student Services Building on campus, which is at the corner of Racine and Harrison. And that resulted in 2 civilians being detained. And so, of course, whenever we heard about this, everyone was terrified and was very concerned about our campus community. And so our steering committee at GEO reached out to the university via the Labor Relations Office. And Tano Robinson, who is the chief labor negotiator for UIC, responded that he was totally unaware of the situation and couldn't really provide any information. And so we followed UIC's current policy for dealing with federal law enforcement on campus, and we called the UIC Police Department. And they told us that while they were already aware of the situation, they were unable to do anything because they consider the activity to not technically be on campus property. And so ultimately, UIC did respond to our email privately and confirmed that one person was detained as a result of a traffic stop, and that they're not affiliated with UIC. And so as a result, the university finally communicated to the general grad worker and student community on Monday, October 13th, which is almost a full week after the incident. And the email provided no substantial updates to any protection since the last time that UIC addressed any concerns related to immigration enforcement. And basically all that they recommended was UIC students and faculty should carry their ID on them at all times. They cautioned us to avoid, quote, unnecessary risks, especially near large gatherings or protests, which we feel is an attempt to kind of suppress our freedom of speech and organizing. And that if anybody feels unsafe, that they just need to call the UIC police, which this incident showed us that that's really not enough to protect our international community, especially our graduate workers. They said that they couldn't do anything because the street wasn't on campus property. But we know that we do regularly receive alerts about police activity or reports of crimes occurring both on campus and in streets nearby that are technically off campus. So we don't see why federal immigration enforcement should not require some kind of response or immediate notification. And so we want the university to approach us and approach our demands seriously, because we consider this to be a unilateral change to our working conditions. Because if our international workers are too scared to come on campus, or if they're worried about, being kidnapped and taken to a detention facility and potentially deported, this directly affects their working conditions. So UIC needs to commit to doing something about this issue that so many people are concerned about.
Absolutely. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I am speaking this morning with Macy Miller, co-outreach chair with the Graduate Workers Union, GEO Local 6297 here in Chicago at the University of Illinois Chicago campus. So, Macy, let me come back to something that you've said a couple of times, and it's part of a bigger conversation that I think a lot of people in the country are questioning. And I don't know if you have an exact answer, but let's just talk about it. And that's the jurisdiction and guidelines and abilities of local. In this case, this is a hyper local law enforcement in terms of the campus security. And what has been some of your conversations? Maybe this is a better way to ask you this. When it comes to this, we can't do anything. And I found it interesting and I've got to now. You're making me got to drive over to the campus and kind of drive around, because to say that it wasn't technically on university property, I'm not even comfortable with that kind of language. So how are you guys navigating and having conversations about what's university property and what's the actual ability of campus police to protect y'all?
Yeah, no, that's such a good point. We've been very frustrated by this conversation. Of course, like I said, the university defined that specific intersection as not being on university property, but it's literally right next to the Student Services Building, which is, of course, a place that so many of our student workers have to go to or pass by on a daily basis. And so this is something that we're currently debating with them about, and I know is, really a problematic issue right now across the city. But like you mentioned, the UIC police aren't really prepared to, at this moment, do any real intervention on behalf of our community. And so we don't know how we can actually, accurately define the boundaries of the campus in a way that the administration will agree to. But we really strongly think that that should extend to the streets nearby our campus at the very least, because so many of our students and workers, of course, have to walk up and down these streets. They have to take public transportation to get there. They have to drive, whatever it might be. And they did say that one of the people who was detained had to be stopped at a traffic stop. So, that probably happened somewhere nearby campus as well. And so that's directly affected to everyone who's on campus, even though it might be a street adjacent. But like you said, this is an issue that everyone across the city is trying to work out, and how local enforcement authorities can try to protect communities from federal enforcement. And hopefully we're able to come to a common understanding soon, because this is so important right now. It's important, and it's also dangerous as hell, because I do this a lot, Macy. So I apologize in advance. I set up scenarios that I think are reality. You, me, and three other people are walking. We're on campus. Now, I'm not a student, but I'm there, and you and I are doing an event, and you and me and three other people are leaving the campus property to walk to a parking lot on the east side of Halstead. And you know where I'm talking about. That's technically not campus property, but it is. But we just left an event as students, you and others. That's where I get a little frustrated, because we're on campus and then we left campus I know it's got to be tough for you guys. And I don't know if I've even asking you a question, but I do sympathize with that challenge, because it's so many people that are probably faced with that. And God forbid they happen to be, brown-skinned folks from another country. Absolutely. Yeah. So many of our students at UIC are Black and brown, and they're from different countries. And so we are a very diverse campus. And the university administration loves to talk about that and talk about, how they're serving so many people from different backgrounds, especially low-income folks across Chicago. But like you said, without enacting these real protections, then they're putting our most vulnerable communities at risk. And also, like you said, people have to come to campus somehow, right? They don't just magically appear there. So they have to, walk on the sidewalks. They have to drive by. And so all of these places are so directly related to their ability to come and actually do their work and study on campus. So you're totally right that this is a major issue, and these boundaries need to be addressed. Yeah, and the campuses. I said this a few months ago when some of the other universities that were, Harvard and it comes to mind immediately, but other universities were being and have been attacked by the Trump regime. That one of the things that I've felt that all universities in the country should do that are not willing to sacrifice and bend the knee should all come together and create a pact, create an organization that says that they're going to defend their schools and the students that attend there and the teachers and the professors that are there and the employees and all the rest. And I know that's a big lift. I know that's a big ask. But I feel like that's something that universities should be doing. Every president, every chancellor of every university in America, it's a pretty strong force when I think that they come together. And you as a union a representative, am I crazy in that thought, or what do you think? No, you're definitely not crazy. That's a great idea. And especially, locally in Chicago, we're a sanctuary city, right? So at the very least, Chicago universities should be collaborating with one another to try to keep their communities safe. And so, obviously we've been very frustrated by this inaction. So we really do feel like at this point we have to take matters into our own hands if the university is not enacting any real protections. So we have been organizing with other organizations on campus. For instance, there's a organization called Sanctuary for All, which is a network of students, graduate workers, staff, and faculty that are all dedicated to keeping each other safe and ensuring that UIC is a real sanctuary campus. And this network is developing a rapid response team on campus to respond to any of these reports, as well as a mutual aid network to help provide for the basic needs of folks who are affected by this immigration enforcement. And so these actions are totally necessary because if the universities won't keep us safe, then we have to keep each other safe. And so I think that's a great idea to extend that collaboration to other universities in Chicago. So I'll definitely advocate that we look into that because this is so necessary right now to collaborate and protect one another.
And I mean this when I say this to you, Macy. If you need my voice and my show to help foster that collaboration, I'm down with you guys to do that. Because
I appreciate that.
I will put that out there right now. Y'all heard me say it, but I'm down with any university or leaders like you who are trying to pull together our efforts to protect our city and protect our students, protect our professors, protect our assistants, graduate or otherwise, because, these Gestapo knuckleheads running around causing more harm than safety and protection need to be reined in. So if there's anything that I can do to help, do not hesitate to reach out to me and let me know, because I think that the stronger that we stay connected and know that that's our strength, the better that we're going to be. So let me know what I can do. What's next, and how can folks find you and get involved in whatever way that they see possible, or that you can allow them to be involved?
Yeah, and thank you so much for that offer. We really appreciate the collaboration and the solidarity that you're showing with us today.
Absolutely.
And so like I mentioned a few times, we're currently bargaining with the university. So internally, we're just going to continue coming to the bargaining table in good faith and just demanding that the university acknowledge and respond to our request through substantial negotiations at the bargaining table. And so if folks who are listening do want to support GEO and the rest of our international campus community, we are currently working on building up our strike fund, just in case. And so there's more information about that and what GEO does and the ability to donate to that fund at our website, which is uicgeo.org. And so, we're collaborating to keep one another safe and to make sure that we have real protections and to support not only our international community, but everybody on campus who, is affected by all of these issues.
So we have to have you back, Macy, to talk more about this. The progress is an ongoing thing, and we want to we'd like you to keep us up to speed on what's happening and keep us up to date so we can talk about, how we can get more people involved and collaborate to be able to be a resource to protect the universities here in Chicago, of course. So put it on your calendar that I'm going to be back on Choose Views because we have more to talk about. That sound okay?
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you so much.
All right, Lindsay, thanks for being with us. Have a great day. You stay safe and keep working hard to keep folks safe at the University of Illinois, Chicago.
You too. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye. All right. Yeah, guys, check them out. See what you might be able to do. Follow them. However, you got to, be a part of this, because I'm serious when I say this. I want to use my voice in that space because there's no way in hell that any ICE thug should be rolling onto university campuses or testing what the boundaries are. And universities, I mean, come on, step up and protect the students who are probably paying a significant amount of money to go to school there in the first place. So I know I'm being a little bit opinionated there, and nobody get too ruffled in the undies about that. But, they are, if they're there to learn, then leave them alone. Let folks be able to be there to learn and go forward. And I'm tired of seeing, I'm so tired of ICE. And thank the universe that I haven't had an encounter with them, because they are out of line. They need to be reined in. But kudos to what Macy Miller is doing with her GEO group there at University of Illinois, Chicago. Let's take a tiny quick call before we go to this break. I know my man Bob from Indiana has been holding for a few minutes. Bob, good morning and welcome to the show.
Well, how do you do?
I'm doing great, man. How you been?
Well, I just took my nitro pill, so I'm really hopping now. But, yeah, I was at the No King rally in Michigan City, Indiana.
Wow. Where was it held? I know Michigan City, Indiana well. Where was it held?
Well, if you know it well, do you know where the city courthouse is up on Highway 12 as you loop around by the lake?
Yes, I do. Right before you get down by the casino.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we were there right in front of the courthouse on 12.
Good.
And I was disappointed in the size of our crowd. I don't know, but we must have had 600-700 people in June. I don't think we at any one point made it to 100 Saturday.
Yeah.
Now, the difference is still, I think we should have had more, but I was told they had a big rally in LaPorte, which they did not have in June. And I'm sure a lot of our people went over to that.
Okay.
But anyway, it was what it was. I had my cheesy little homemade Antifa sign that I held, and I stuck my dad's medal that he got in the Army 3 months before Antifa was the thing to be, actually, before Pearl Harbor. And some people took notice of that.
That's great.
So I come from a family of that. But the interesting thing was the traffic going back and forth in front of us on the highway.
Mm-hmm.
I would say about 2/3 of that were positive.
Okay, good.
They either waved, honked. Some of them held up their own signs as they went, because they figured we would be there. And then the other third was just, people just going by, didn't have the time, whatever.
Right.
And then you had the Magoons, that's what I call them now, that either gave you the pleasant finger gestures or shouted rather angrily, of course, some kind of Trump slogan.
Right.
And most of them, by the way, were in pickup trucks. Interesting, isn't it? But what I noticed was that there were far fewer of them doing that as they went by.
Yeah.
Than there were in June.
Well, and it's interesting. Sorry, I'm sorry, Biden, to cut you off, but it's interesting because we got to take this break. I'm glad you were out there. I'm glad you were able to be a part of it, and even though it was a smaller crowd than before, what truly matters, is that folks like you were out and that other people were out. We just have to keep layering on top of that. So, Bob, we got to hit this quick break.
Was it bigger? Oh, okay. Well, real quick, was it a bigger all around the country crowd than it was in June, significantly or not?
From what I'm understanding, it was, but the final numbers probably aren't fully in yet, so I'm going to give it another 24 hours to see where we really are. But Bob, thanks for the call. We'll talk to you soon. The number is 773-763-9278. We're going to take a quick break. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 103.5 FM. From Warren County, North Carolina, I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
WCPT Replay.
We are talking with retired Major General Randy Manner.
It's very important that you find these concepts of hope locally, because when it is absent from a higher level, for example, in this case, nationally, you have to look and find it, because there are these great leaders. I will tell you that I was absolutely inspired by the remarks of the governor of Illinois, and the mayor of this great city, when both of them gave that press conference, I was going, now those are leaders.
Yeah.
Those are people who are saying we are going to stand up for our people. In terms of the people who are listening to this now, if you live in Chicago or you live in Illinois, you should be proud of those leaders that you've elected to stand up for what is right.
Keep listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
With other language learning apps, I was just playing games. I wasn't really learning. Babbel's different.
Babbel was designed by over 200 language learning experts to be the most effective way to learn another language.
Every time I open the app, I can choose to work on my writing, speaking, or listening. And it saves my mistakes for me to review, so I'm constantly improving. Before Babbel, I thought I just wasn't good with languages. But now I'm speaking French. Tout ça, c'est grâce à Babbel.
Save up to 50% on your Babbel subscription when you sign up at Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see sunny skies here for today with a high in the upper 60s. Breezy south winds increased around 15 to 20 miles per hour, gusting as high as 30. And then for tonight, a chance for rain showers, increasing clouds, a low near 48. By Tuesday, chance for rain showers here late. Partial sunshine develops high around 57. Then Wednesday, partly sunny skies, a high around 52. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 43.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
You're listening to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Donald Trump's out there right now telling everybody that everything's less expensive when it's not. He's telling people the job market's the hottest that it's ever been when we're losing jobs. They didn't even release the jobs report on Friday. And I'll also note, they didn't release the last inflation report from the BLS 2 or 3 weeks ago. They just kind of buried it. So they're hiding the numbers. And again, you and I can go back and forth on political talking points. Hold on, David, just let me finish my thought. You and I can go back and forth on talking points. You and I can go back and forth on the statistics. Ask an average American who's balancing their household budget, who is trying to get a job. If things are more expensive, they'll tell you absolutely yes. If somebody's out there trying to get a job, they will tell you that it is very hard to get a job right now. And Donald Trump doesn't even acknowledge that reality, and it seems like you're not acknowledging that reality either, which I think does a disservice to the American people who are hurting right now.
That is my good friend, political strategist, man about town, Mike Nellis. Good morning, Mike, and welcome to the show.
Morning, Richard. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. You got your voice back from Saturday. I know that we were busy, and hey, you went to the game, man. That was the coolest post. Which y'all don't, Mike, tell them about the post from the football game. That was really cool.
Yeah. So, yesterday, middle of the day, a bunch of conservative guys like Clay Travis were talking about how sad it was that Democrats were out there protesting and not enjoying college football, which to me was especially funny because I drove downtown to attend the No Kings protest and then immediately got in a car when it was over and drove to South Bend to go watch Notre Dame beat USC because I'm a huge Notre Dame fan. So it was really fun. So I just dropped a photo of me and my wife with there. She was actually giving me a little bit of hell this morning, telling me I don't have to block out her face. I thought it was being nice, but it went pretty viral. Kind of surprising.
Yeah, well, I thought it was cool. I really did. So yeah, I knew you were at the rally, and I reached a point where I said, just stop texting people and put your phone away, and be a part of the process. And what's your assessment? And we'll talk about that, and then we'll get into some of the other issues that are going on. But what's your assessment of? Because we were here at the Chicago rally, the one that was downtown. What are your observations?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it was a big event. They said like 250,000 people were downtown, and then they had all the big rallies. I saw Elgin had a big rally. I know Evanston had a big rally. And so I think all across the country, people came together. And here's the deal. You look at the numbers, and they're still tallying everything, but it looks like the estimate for the rally was anywhere from, I just read it before I came on, 5.8 million to, 7.5 million. So it's a huge number. It's likely the largest protest in American history, bigger than the last time, which is good. And to me, we can go back and forth on the statistics, but I would argue that the Republican MAGA response to this is more indicative of how impactful that it was, because they're out there outright lying. I posted a verified video of the rally in Boston, which is enormous. Yep. And MAGA has spent the better part of the last 48 hours photoshopping fake community notes on it, claiming that it's from 2017, or a bunch of them are claiming that it was a pro-Trump rally that happened in Boston, which doesn't make any sense because there's about 5 people in Boston who like Donald Trump. So they're lying about it. They're making stuff up. They can't get on the same page about what they want to say. They're like, everybody who came out is an Antifa terrorist. No. Everybody who came out was just like an old white lady, and it's just old white women who are organizing the Democratic Party. No. It's all just like weak, liberal, feet college people with blue hair and nose piercings. No. It's actually just losers who don't like college football. So they can't stay on the same page. And that tells me that they're scared of this, and they have to rile up their people because their people are worried too.
Yeah, they are. And I saw the post that you're talking about with regard to Boston. Yeah, Boston's was massive too. Chicago's, they all were. And I read some data that a couple of folks sent me earlier in the show that they live in small communities where, like, one particular, they've got like 20,000 people in their town. And the text said that over 2,500 people showed up. To me, that's in some cases more indicative of what you've been saying, and I've been saying for months now, weeks now for sure, of what's happening, or at least the belief system. When you've got a community of 20,000 people and better than 10% show up for a rally, and it's in a red state, red community, that's saying something, I believe. I think that is in many ways more indicative than, 250,000 people or whatever showing up in Chicago. Not that that's bad, but you get my point about that impact in those other communities.
Yeah, no, I absolutely do. And I think it's the Republicans are making the same mistake that Democrats did in 2009. We poo-pooed the Tea Party. We said it was AstroTurf. We acted like it wasn't real. And the truth was there was a red wave coming. And I think there's a real opportunity here for the Democrats. And that's before we even see the real effects of this economy right now, because people are really struggling. Like what I said in that clip is true. Inflation is out of control right now. The job market is terrible. They are not releasing the numbers. They don't want people to know how the American economy is doing, but people know at home, and people are frustrated. It's why Trump's approval rating is plummeting right now. It's probably in the high 30s at best. So, I think that there's a real opportunity for Democrats, but Democrats have to earn it, right? We've got to have good candidates. We got to run good campaigns. We have to have something meaningful to say, some policies to offer people. And I think we're getting there. It's just taking a lot longer than I'd like it to be.
I agree with that. I think we're getting there, but it's taking longer. It's got to be a what's next, and let's make the next right now. And that's one of the things that I've been talking about. I was hanging out with the folks at the family meeting yesterday afternoon, and that's the big question. So what's next, and what needs to be the next? So I'm going to ask you that question because that's been on my mind since while I was there. I mean, let me just put this out there. I recognize the importance of the protest rally, however people want to phrase it. I was there to support the effort at large, and I was asked by my wife and some friends of hers to go. Okay. I protest every day. I protest my entire being is protesting. So that being said, one of the conversations that I had was with myself and others is what's next. So if you were Mike to say, Richard, here's what you and I need to be advocating for as the next things that need to happen after these rallies nationwide, these protests nationwide, what would 2-3 of those things be? As you and I were to say, all right, guys, this is what we got to do next.
Yeah, I think it's got to be that Democrats put together a clear economic vision for this country, because I don't think that we have one right now. And part of that's because we're leaderless. And that is what happens in the American political system when you don't have a presidential nominee. Like, you kind of get scattered, and then every different faction of the party is like, we should do this and we should do that. I think the party needs to coalesce around, here's what we're going to do to help improve your life. And it's going to require some acknowledgement from the party that a lot of people don't want to do, which is that the last couple of years under Joe Biden were difficult economically. And a lot of people want to talk about why. They want to argue about it. You can't do that. Most people don't care about the why. They just know that we were in charge and we're responsible for that, even if it's not our fault. So I think we've got to acknowledge, hey, this didn't work. And this is worse. What Donald Trump is doing is dramatically worse. You can still make that point, but then go, we're going to do this, 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 and this, and that's going to help your life. And it can start with, we're going to get rid of the tariffs. It can start with raising the minimum wage. You also need to outline a clear plan for how we're going to get it done. Because if you ask people right now in polls and focus groups, they'll tell you, we like Democrats. We don't hate Democrats, but we don't believe that they're fighting for us, and we don't believe they can get anything done. So there's going to have to be some sort of reset in terms of getting people to believe that we can actually achieve what we say. Because people feel like we've given them a lot of promises from Obama to Biden that never came into pass. And they're watching Donald Trump get a lot of stuff done. Now that stuff is, in my opinion, horrible and destructive and corrupt, but they're seeing it get done. So it's changing the American mind of government can actually get stuff done. Unfortunately, in this case, it's a lot of stuff that people hate. So I think it's that. And then making sure that as these primaries start, because we're about 4 or 5 months away from real serious primaries that are coming. And by the way, I don't want to skip over these Virginia and New Jersey races, which are super important. And I believe Democrats are going to win both. but we have to make sure that we nominate good candidates. And when I say good candidates, it's the next generation of Democratic leadership, because people want to see new faces in the party. It's people who can communicate effectively in new modern platforms. Means they can do your show, but they can also do a 3-hour interview with Joe Rogan. Means they can shoot TikTok videos. Means they can talk. And then they got to have something to say. They got to have a real story. They got to be in it for the right reasons, because we got to change the way that people view the Democratic Party. Otherwise, we're going to get smashed again. If we're in a fight and people are just cynical about it and they don't really care, they're going to go with the people they think can get stuff done. And right now, unfortunately, that's the Republican Party. Again, I don't think they're doing anything great. I don't think they're doing anything to help people, but that's how people are experiencing our political system right now.
Well, one of the things that I'm always cautious of, and in terms of getting things done, there's marching in place and there's moving forward. Marching in place looks like action and getting things done, but it's not. And that's what the Republicans are doing right now. So I want to add to what you're saying. I agree that they're doing things, but are they getting things done that are benefiting the bulk of the American people? And the answer is unequivocally no. They are not getting things done for the majority of people, but they are action. They are acting. They are moving. But as I look at it, it's like running in place. They're running in place. They're running in place. So let's take that to your point, and you probably get frustrated with this, and I want to say it in a positive way, as positive of a way as possible, that there's so much artillery to be used right now. There's so much stuff to be used to create that message, not even to create it, but just to form it and then focus it, because of all the things that the Republican Party is doing, but it's harmful to the country. So I think we've got to be mindful of, here's what we're going to do and how we're going to get it done. That's critically important. One of the areas that I keep getting asked about, though, is voter registration. And, I've talked about this with a handful of people about voter registration getting back up and raising that back up again in the Democratic Party. And what have been some of your observations there?
Yeah, well, the voter registration numbers are scary, in my opinion, where you see fewer and fewer people registering as Democrats and more people registering as Republicans. But I think one thing to note, the people who are leaving the Democratic Party are leaving to become independents. Mm-hmm. They are frustrated with this version of the Democratic Party. They're frustrated with our leadership. And then really, unfortunately, nobody in the Democratic Party is taking that seriously. Like, I just don't see anybody really out there cranking in and doing that work. And that's a tremendous problem that I'm banging on doors about all the time. But they're not leaving the political system and they're not joining the Republican Party. Like, when you see, there'll be like errant tweets out there. And by the way, a lot of them are fake. Let's be clear about that, because they also lie about the numbers. But you'll see a post that's like, Pennsylvania voter registration for July plus 10,000 Republicans minus 8,500 Democrats. And let's assume for a second that's true. It's probably not. But if people are leaving to be Republicans, it's MAGA voting independents who are now changing their registration because they're proud of what's happening. And then it's Democrats who are leaving to become independents because they're frustrated with the party. I've often said before, I think if I decided to just get out of politics and get a normal job, I would probably register as an independent myself, but it wouldn't change who or what I supported. I think the two-party system sucks, frankly. Is truly how I believe. And so I would just choose to be an independent, as a civilian. But again, I'm in the system and I want to be useful to the side that I think is the least crazy, even if they drive me nuts. So I think it is a problem, but it is not as big of a problem as people think that it is. And I want to go back to something you said a second ago, too, which was about how there's so much fodder out there to be talking about. It's why it's super important for Democrats to have a series of stories, 3-4 consistent stories that they're telling all the time about what's happening in this country. I think it's got to be the economy is bad. Donald Trump is driving up costs. The job market sucks. Got to be talking about that. I would be talking about safety in the context of everything that Donald Trump that makes people less safe, from the immigration rates here in Chicago to taking federal law enforcement officials off of doing drug trafficking and sex trafficking and cyber crimes and putting them on immigration because they're overextending. Should be talking about them cutting community policing. And then the third for me would be corruption, talking about how they are stealing from the federal government, putting money in their pocket, protecting white collar criminals and liars like George Santos. I could not believe he commuted George Santos's sentence on Friday. It's ridiculous. He can. Yeah, right. I mean, all right. It's both believable and unbelievable at the same time. So that's what that's why listen, during previous administrations, I've always said that it's important to take the failings of the other party and massage that into a very sledgehammer-like message. And there is so much right now to fill up that tank for the Democratic mindset, whether it be on a local, a state, or a national level to use. There's so much there.
And that's where I think you and I have an opportunity to keep pounding on those doors and those desks to say, this is what people want to hear. This is what you have to say. Keep it simple and just keep rinsing and repeating it. Because the irony of this is, Mike, that the Republicans are going to keep doing what they're doing because no one is challenging the administration. The Republicans in the House aren't, and the Senate's not. So, and state legislators,
and the Supreme Court isn't either,
and the Supreme Court's not. So there's an easy opportunity to show the compare and contrast. I think right now, and I laugh with you about George Santos. I said this earlier. I'll just read this to you again in case you weren't up and about yet. In the United States of America, George Santos has his 7-year sentence for lying, cheating, and stealing over $500,000 commuted, while Willie Simmons served life without parole for stealing $9. And so those are things that have to be pointed out, I think, as well. But again, a narrow, simple, economic and safety based and to some extent optimistic message is where I think the Democratic Party has so much of an incredible opportunity, and to then help persuade those folks that may be registering as independents that we can get stuff done. I think that those are the opportunities, and we can't leave those on the table.
Well, can I add too on Santos, as you get into these conversations, at least I get into them with other Democratic strategists, and they're like, we can't talk about that because it's a distraction. And I'm like, well, sure. I mean, of course he's dropping that the day before the No Kings protest to create some fodder out there for us to complain about. But to me, it's you can actually grab that and use it against him, because if he wants to play the distraction game, we can also rechange the topic ourselves. So I had a tweet that went pretty viral this weekend where I did like a back and forth between Trump and the American people. And it was like, Trump, good news, everybody, I released. And then it was like, me going, the Epstein files? No.
Right.
The jobs report? No. The inflation report? The Tom Homan bribery investigation? No. Oh, George Santos, what the, and then I used a word I can't use on your show.
Right.
But, it's what the heck. And so that's the kind of thing we need more Democrats to do, is like grab what he's doing and the absurdity of it to capture the attention, but then immediately pivot back to, darn, everything's really expensive now. Isn't it hard to buy a house? Don't you feel less safe in your community right now? Isn't it weird that Donald Trump has made billions of dollars since he took office in January? Like, these are the things you just got to get back to. Democrats are really bad at it. Republicans are amazing at it. They're absolutely amazing at it. I admire take out the ethics for a second. I admire it as like a practitioner of like what they can do. Watching them do it at the No Kings rally, though, they're all over the place and they're acting with such bluster. So you can see through the weakness if you're looking for it, but they're very good at changing the topic.
Yeah. And it's not just changing the topics. It's also distracting from the key things that should be being talked about. They run everything right now, so nothing less should be expected. But that's also the tool that the Democrats have that they have to use, is that the Republicans are running on a federal level. They're running everything. So anything that's not going right, it's their fault. And that should be, I personally think that should be every single day's press conference when Hakeem or Chuck or whomever in the Democratic Party gets in front of a microphone. It should start with, whether they're asked a question by the media or not, it should start with, so here's what the Republicans have done today that's affecting your lives in a negative way. And just have 2 or 3 bullet points every single time. Anybody, even Jasmine Crockett, and she does a great job with her press conferences and all the rest, but that needs to be on the tip of the tongue of every single Democrat across the board, those that are running for office on a state level and those that are in offices on a federal level. I think it's just, you and I have to keep reminding and keep banging and keep posting that in all of our conversations.
It also needs to happen a lot faster too. Like
right, immediately.
Right. Like I had Sarah Longwell on my shows from the Bulwark, and I told her a story of like before Democrats were talking about the Jeff Epstein stuff around the 4th of July. I was on a conference call the day after it happened, and I was like screaming at officials going, you got to talk about this. Like, this is an entry point, and walking them through my thoughts on it. And she was like, the Republicans never have a Zoom meeting to talk about anything. They don't have to get into a room and talk about it because they have their core of what they want to say and they know how to manipulate it and just run with it. And part of my problem with the shutdown messaging, and don't get me wrong, I think Democrats are winning the shutdown. I'll give them a B+ for the work that they're doing. I think if we hang in there, we're going to win. But how many times have I seen Hakeem Jeffries with the Democratic caucus with like 213 members standing outside of the Capitol doing a press conference when I want all 213 of them out there doing local TV, national TV, radio, YouTube, influencer shows, whatever? They should be scattered out there creating so much content that it floods the zone. But half of the caucus can't do it. And the half that can, maybe only like 15 of them are really good at it. And so it's just we lack the talent to be able to do it. So they end up pushing them all together into big bunches. And I think that's a mistake. Whereas at any given moment, any random Republican member of Congress will go do a local radio hit and get their message out. And even if they're not great at it, even a C-plus player is better than nobody.
I think it needs to be both. And then dividing, it's the divide and conquer. That's the wrong way of applying it. Divide up the team. You and I both played sports. So, okay, we got an objective here. Mike, you can't play point guard. You got it. We need you down in the paint because you
can't play basketball, period.
All right, well, walk with me for a second. But you get my point. We need your size in the paint because they got some big boys. We need your size in the paint. And so I think that's where the leadership there's a lesson to be learned there. Look at who on the team can be doing the 50 standing at a gathering like we just described, and I know what you're talking about. And that's what we do. And then another 50, you all are wash, rinsing, and repeating on every single outlet that's out there because you're good at it. And so if there's anything that I want to encourage, I take away the word criticism, but encourage the leadership to do, is to look at the team and who the players are and then determine who should be out doing X, Y, and Z and taking the messaging to the public on a regular day-to-day basis. I've been saying this for months now. Press conference on Monday, press conference on Friday. Here's what they did over the weekend to screw up your lives. Here's what they're going to do over the weekend to screw up your lives, at minimum, and then take it from there. But that's me. I simplify this stuff sometimes, and that, to me, it may actually end up going over people's heads. But anyhow, that's taking what you just said and adding to that. Go ahead.
There's also, you describe it as a way where it's like, he's a general and they're just sort of lining them up where they need to go. And they don't even do that. It's just like everybody is so scattered. So it's 213 comms teams. Like Hakeem might say, hey, we're going to do this press conference. We want to get as many people here. But like everybody's booking their own TV shows. They're all booking their own YouTube shows, influencers. Like it's very difficult. Like truth be told, I've got a show on Substack. It's got 1.5 million subscribers. Like I've had two members of Congress on, and since the shutdown started 2.5 weeks ago. Like, why are they not? And it's not me complaining about them not doing my show, but I don't see them doing any of these shows. And it's because they don't know about them. They don't think they can do them. Like, it just drives me crazy. And it should be that, Hakeem's office or the DCCC or somebody is trying to push everybody forward. And you get a little bit of that, but just not enough. And then trying to elevate the next generation because there's so much seniority at stake here where they want you to talk to a 15-term congressman who has been waiting his turn so that he can be the spokesman for blah, blah, blah committee when in reality, the first or second termer is dramatically better at advocating for the same issues. And so there's just they got to get past all of that. It's a huge gerontocracy problem. It's a huge meritocracy problem too. And they got to get past it.
Well, and that's true in American politics right now. And I think that the Democratic Party has the most to gain by getting past it. And that's the positive spin I'll put on it. They have the most to gain. And it would be leaps and bounds. It wouldn't be incremental. And I think that folks in the regular, everyday folks want to see leaps and bounds. They want to see something that's a significant change in how the leadership is presenting itself. I'm not about crapping on the Democrats. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to speak from the perspective of encouraging them, finding out where the weaknesses are, and then coming up with a plan to fix that. That's my approach. Everybody doesn't have to buy into that. But at the same time, we do need to recognize that for change to happen, it's got to start now. To your point, we can't wait for a seminal moment and then say, okay, now's the time to do that. It's we're past that point. We've crossed that Mendoza line, as it were. Mike, busy as hell as you always are, and I know that you and I have been, keeping this tent up with poles that are bending, but we're still keeping this tent up to keep the optimism there and keep the fight going on. What's your week looking like?
I'm going on a trip this weekend. I'm taking a few days off towards the back end of the week, so I'm excited. I'm going to leave the country for 3 days and then see if they'll let me back in.
See, I did this. My wife and I did the same thing last week. We took a few days off and left the country and came back. Mike Nellis, political strategist, and the dude that there's a lot to say about a lot of things. That's my little add-on. Mike, thanks for being with us. I appreciate you hanging out this morning. Travel safe, and we'll talk to you in a week or so.
Thanks, Richard. Appreciate you.
All right. Bye now. All right, guys, as always, we come to the end of the show after we've been running at a fast pace. Thanks to Mike Nellis for being with us this morning. Thanks to Macy Miller for being with us, and Jennifer Jones as well, to bring some new information on unions here locally in Chicago, as well as talking about cybersecurity that we all need to be mindful of. So, guys, it's a new week, and we're fighting hard every day, and we're pushing to do what we can to make sure that we get things done. And I'm going to do my best to keep that activity high and strong for you guys. But as always, take a deep breath and make your life count. And oh, by the way, speak truth to power. See you tomorrow. This is Richard Chew, host of Chew's Views here on WCPT AM 820, 6 to 8 a.m. Monday through Friday. We have some real challenges in front of us.